I attended Stalker School from the fall of 1970 to the spring of 1976, grades 1 through 6. I have some special memories from the old Stalker School. One of those memories is in second grade. I was in Martha Sims' classroom. She was famous for having a reading nook that contained a bathtub in it, so everyone wanted to be in her room. And in the spring of that year, it was a warm spring, and the Apollo 16 had landed on the moon. And so in the afternoon, on a Friday afternoon after lunch, they wheeled in a television and hooked it up. And we were allowed to sit there and watch the very grainy and very black and white pictures, and which caused me to promptly fall asleep. But I do remember that afternoon and how warm it was and the pictures on the screen. That my second grade teacher, Mrs. Sims, in the spring took myself and my best friend then home on Friday night to spend the night at her farm. We left school right after school on Friday, and we jumped in her blue Chevy truck, and we took off, and she took us out to her farm. She showed us a few things to stay away from: the bull in the pasture and the horse that wanted to nip at us, and said, have fun. And we roamed all over that farm Friday night and played with her cats. Her cats had just had kittens in the house that night, and then the next morning she took us back home. One of my favorite teachers was Mrs. Noggle, Isel Noggle. She had been at Stalker a long time, and she was known for being a disciplinarian, but she was also a lover of books and reading. And she had a program in her classroom with just her kids that if you read a book and reported to her, then she would keep track all year long, and then at the end of the year, whoever had read the most books got their name on a perpetual plaque. And that plaque had my name on it one year, and it was outside in the hall, and anyone who went to school at Stalker for years would see those names on that plaque. When I went to Stalker, the teachers there had researched and introduced to the school system a pilot program that was only used at Stalker for reading. It was a self-paced program that used packets, reading packets, and each grade you received packets, and as you worked your way through those, if you fell behind, if you struggled, then you were giving some extra help. But if you were successful at moving through those packets, and there was many packets for each grade level, then near the end of the year, if you had finished every packet in your grade, then your reward would be to start the next grade's packets. I lived not far from Stalker School, and so sometimes I would stay there for lunch, and sometimes I would go home for lunch. I lived on O Street, so it didn't take me long to get home and back. If I ate there, in the early years, I had a Snoopy lunchbox, and I would bring it, and everyone in the school just put their lunch boxes just inside the school door. I think now, looking back, it was probably because that was a cool place for them to be in the wintertime, and it kept them cool for the morning. Another thing was the recess, of course, always stands out in everyone's memory. We had the Hill, which was very active with activities in the fall and the spring and the winter time. It was used for sliding down any way you wanted to down the hill. There was also pieces of playground equipment, including a jungle gym and a monkey bar and a merry-go-round. The merry-go-round was famous because it was an old school merry-go-round. It only had seats around the outside edge. And as students there during the day, at recess, we were banned from going inside to push. But after school, weekends, in the summertime, we could go inside to the inside of the merry-go-round and push, and you could really get that thing going fast. And I'm sure that it would have knocked a few kids out if they fell down while they were on the inside with all the metal bars that connected to the outside. But that was a huge thing to do for us who lived in the neighborhood. At Stalker, we had it was 3 levels. You entered and you could either go upstairs to the main first level, or you could go downstairs to the basement. And downstairs in the basement there was a cafeteria, which sometimes doubled as somewhere to go for PE, but you really couldn't do anything in that room downstairs. Also downstairs were the boys' bathroom and the girls' bathroom, and also the sick couch, which is where you'd go if you told your teacher you were sick. You basically went down there and stayed until you started feeling better, and then you could return to class. If you didn't come back for a while, then the teacher would send a student down to check on you, one of your classmates. Then the second 2 levels were all classrooms. While I was at Stalker, I participated in Little Hoosiers, and also I was part of the choir, a special choir that was put together. Also, I played basketball on the playground every day. Some of us girls did. And as I grew older, I became better and better at that sport, but back in those early days, there wasn't a girls' basketball team, there was only a boys' basketball team. So because by the time I was 6th grader, I felt like I was just as good as the boys. All the boys' basketball their team would practice at recess, of course, together. And I was the same size, and I felt like I could hold my own against their guards. So I went to the basketball coach of the boys team and asked if I could participate, if I could play too. And he said I would have to go ask the principal. The principal was Vestal Turner. We as students felt like he lived in his office. It wasn't like today where you would see the principal out and about. He pretty much stayed in the office unless there was a problem, or if you had a problem, you had to go to the office. So no one wanted to ever go to the principal's office. I had never been in there in 6 years of school. And so I went to the principal's office. There was an outer office with 2 ladies, secretaries. And I got the feeling that they were rooting for me. They knew what I was going to do. And they smiled and told me to go on in. And so I entered his office. I was extremely nervous. I told him what I wanted, and he listened very attentively. And then he turned to me and said, "No." And I said, "Okay, thank you, goodbye," because I just wanted to turn around and get out of there. I was so nervous. As I walked out, I just felt those secretaries' eyes on me, and I could tell they were as disappointed, I think, maybe not as much as I was, but I think they were disappointed that I was going to get to play. Back in the 70s, we had no snow days, it seemed like. We just went to school, rain, sun, or shine. And we had a couple of buses that brought kids into Stalker, but everyone else lived in the neighborhood and they walked to school. On those snowy days, I can very vividly recall the announcement that would come over that would tell the teachers that certain buses were going on alternate routes, which meant some kids that lived outside the city and the neighborhood didn't have to come to school because their bus couldn't make it down the road. And as a kid, I always thought that wasn't right, but everyone came to school, you just did. I think that part of my favorite memories of Stalker are the friends that I made. I was in 2nd grade when a move-in came. There was a empty desk next to mine and they put her there. And at first I was a little aggravated. I liked that free space, and this was a new girl, but by the end of that year we were best of friends, and we stayed best of friends. In fact, I talked to her today. And so I think that the kids that you grow up with in those early days are the ones as you get older that you look back on with a lot of good memories and fondness, because they knew you before you grew up. You were still a kid and you were all still children together. When I first started Stalker, the girls all had to wear dresses. And this was uncomfortable for me, because I didn't really like dresses that well, but also in the wintertime, everyone walked to school, and it was cold walking in a dress to school. And then on the playground with a dress on, there was only limited to what you could do. And so by about my 3rd or 4th grade, they allowed kids to wear, girls to wear pants, but only certain types of pants. One of my classmates came to school in a pair of red and white Coca-Cola pants, and she was swiftly told to go home and change. Those were not allowed. My 5th and 6th grade year were 1974 to 76, which meant that the IU men's basketball team was achieving greatness that has still been unmatched as far as an undefeated season. And my memory from those times isn't so much the games on TV as the teachers' excitement. And they would come to school and all of them would be talking about it. They were dressed in cream and crimson. They wore buttons, Go Hoosiers, on their clothes, and it was just an exciting time for the teachers, and so for us kids it was exciting to see the teachers so excited about that. With the consolidation of the schools, it's sad that Stalker will be closing, the new Stalker. I hope that they can find some way to make this building useful and also incorporate the name Stalker into this building, because it goes back so far into this part of town, the name Stalker, that I'd like to see it continue in some way.